Hello.
Hey everybody. We thought we would do a video and talk about life here in the village because we've gotten a lot of requests about our life here, but also there's some new viewers and new people who are following us. So we live in a very small village of about 200 people called Homotinsi in the middle of nowhere. I think we're on the end of the road this way and end of the road that way.
Yeah, actually, we're in the middle of kind of like a arc. Basically, it's an arc. You can come in the village this way or this way, and we're kind of in the middle.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's talk about the road traffic. You want to talk about that?
Road traffic. I get to see many tractors drive by.
Yeah.
Big ones, small ones, little walk behind that somebody's hooked a tractor to.
A trailer too, yeah.
Yeah, a trailer. It's called a motor block. We used to have one, and we used to have a trailer behind it. Then we bought a motor block tractor, which is really just the same thing with four wheels.
Yeah.
And it was a little better. I kind of liked it more. The
Didn't
first
beat you
one,
up as much.
yeah, the first one was named Kentav, and that one is I forget what it's called, the half man, half human, no, half man, half human. It's half man, half horse or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's Greek mythology, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, that's what it was named, and it was the motor part, the muscle, and I was the brain. But it tore me up. It hurt me a couple times. It left me on the road. One time it got away from me, and then it's only two wheels, so it kind of went up on its nose and then came down and ran a little further. Did it again.
Did it fall on its side?
I got a long story about that thing.
Anyway, so you can see sometimes the motor blocks with the two wheels, the mini tractors with the four, which is a motor block with four wheels, and then tractors of all sizes.
Yeah, and right now I have a tractor, a 24 horsepower tractor, and it doesn't do any of that. It's pretty easy on me, and the biggest pain in my back from that thing is that I get to sit too long on the tractor when working, and then I got to get up and walk away from it. My history of back problems kind of doesn't do so good with sitting.
So Pasha's tractor, how many horsepower is that? 50?
It's like 90. He's got one that's 90 and one that's somewhere around 50.
And then we see from the cooperative program these huge combines that take up the whole road.
We're talking 200 or 300 horsepower.
Now, we used to have a lot of horses in the village, but there's only 2 or 3 now, and there's a little bit more of the tractors. So we've seen a progress over the past 13 years living here. We have mopeds, bicycles, lots of bicycles.
There is a scooter in the village that is electrical.
Really?
And you can't hear it coming. Yeah.
Lots of people who walk. Let's see, walking, bicycles, mopeds. We even have motorized bicycles.
Yeah, there's
motor on it.
There's a four-wheel ATV.
ATV here that we've seen recently. ATV,
Is that what we call
all-terrain vehicle, four-wheeler.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's just pretty new in the village, yeah. Lots of, like I said, lots of tractors. We've got more cars now than we used to have. Yeah,
there's not too many cows walking up and down the road.
That's what I miss, is when they go out or in the morning, about 7 in the morning, and they come back. It was like 5 or 6 years ago, a company sprayed the sunflowers out in the big fields outside the village, a spray to get them to dry, and they did 2 things wrong. They sprayed it from a helicopter when it never should have been done, and then it was too hot. And so it killed a lot of things, gave some of us breathing problems. But the next year, 18 cows in our village died just 2 or 3 days after giving birth, including our Daisy.
Yeah. It wasn't just that they sprayed it and it was on the plant. It also leached into the groundwater. So, that affects all of the plants and even the cow. If you're drawing water from a well, it's going to get in there too. Yeah. And I figured that it was pretty odd that it would be after the cow gives birth.
Mm-hmm.
But if a cow hadn't given birth, then there would be no problem.
Yeah.
And there were some cases like that, but typically a cow wants to give birth every year.
Yeah.
So,
So we used to have a lot of cows that would go in and out, but we lost 18 that we know of, just that we know
Yeah.
of here in the village. So that was really sad. But we still have some people who have cows. They walk their goats out, like our neighbor. She's gotten older and she switched from a cow to goats, and so
Yeah.
she walks them out. Sometimes they're at the back of her garden. But also road traffic. Our rush hour traffic is geese, turkeys, chickens, ducks out in the road.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Everyone here, most everyone here, lets their chickens and any of their birds out in their front yard. They let them roam so that they can get free food, you know, off the street and out of the grass and the bugs and all this stuff. We don't do that with ours because, you know, we don't want them running away or dying out in the middle of the roadway.
Yeah, yeah. Now, it's actually against the law to
Oh,
hit
yeah.
a goose here,
Yeah.
but not a chicken, because geese are much smarter and they're much more expensive than a chicken.
Yeah, a goose will see you coming and run from you.
Or try and bite your tires.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
bite your
of-
tires.
A few that are aggressive.
But chickens, they'll go halfway across the road, stand there, look at you, and then run back when you try to dodge them.
Yeah, or run back this
Yeah,
way.
so I've taken out a couple of chickens.
Yeah, and it's just where you weave and they weave
Yeah.
back, and yeah. So we don't. And one of the interesting things here is that the front yard is extremely short. I mean, you might have 10 or 15 feet from the road to your front fence, and then a very small front
Yeah.
yard, and the back is really big because that's where the gardens are.
Right.
So, you know, people let their animals out in free range a lot of times. And we get guests into our area if our vehicle gate is open. You know, sometimes we have to chase out the ducks or the
Yeah,
chickens, those
the
kind of
chickens.
things. So that's kind of the road traffic. There's one main bus stop right over here for our village, but there's a couple
Yeah.
of tiny little stops. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5.
Yeah, this stop here is the center of the village, and this is where if they come in from the right, they usually turn around there and go back out. If they come in from the left, they usually turn around here and then go back out. But there is one I think that goes past our village to the next and then turns around and comes back.
Isn't that the 6 p.m.?
Yeah, that's one of them. I think there's also a 2:30.
33.
Yeah. So, but also, pretty much every Friday or Saturday night, we get people that want to get drunk out here, and they're yelling and hooting and hollering.
Because the community club's not too far.
Yeah, and they sit out there, and they sit at the bus stop, and we
They're
can usually, older,
Oh, I've caught teenagers out there.
young adults many times get drunk out there. The teenagers don't. Well, they may, but
Yeah.
we don't know about those things. Anyway, sometimes it's pretty active late at night.
Now, sometimes we have weddings. They're at the community club, and we can hear the music, you know, the boom, boom, boom. But most of the time, it stops at midnight.
Yeah.
Not too bad. They used to do fireworks for weddings. That's very common here. But since
They wouldn't be doing
2014,
that now.
yeah, since 2014, when Russia took over Crimea, and we've had quite a few soldiers from this village. I think 14 that have died. And imagine 200 population, 14 have died. They kind of quit doing that. They're very sensitive to that. And right now, nobody does it because, of course, people would be running for their cellars. I think another thing about just Ukraine in general, and definitely about our village, is everything's so green. They have trees all along the roads, and when you come into our village, there's a small lane, barely 2 cars, and the trees are grown over, and it's just like going down a little lane. I love that, coming into our village and seeing all the green. But even in the big cities, they have a lot of trees along the roads, flowers. They just really enjoy the greenery here, and that's one thing I love.
Yeah, I'm not so into that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I talk with some of the ladies in the village about.
But there's green tractors.
Yeah, even John Deere's here. But I talked to some of the ladies here about different flowers, and the other day when Pasha, he's a couple houses down, he empties out our septic tank. He's got the bigger tractor, and I caught him looking at my flower beds out front. I have red and white over here against the blue fence for the American flag, and then yellow against the blue fence for the Ukrainian flag. And he was commenting on some of my tulips that are kind of feathery on the edges of them, and he had never seen some. And he was talking about how his wife would really like those and asking me where I got them. And I said, well, the big store in the city. You know, so they really like the flowers here. They give flowers for every kind of occasion, graduations, what you name it. They give flowers out, and then chocolates. You know. So what else do we see in the village?
Every now and then we see a jet fly over, screaming overhead, and then they're going, you know, somewhere. I think it's kind of the Kiev area. You know, 100 miles, 120 mile circle that they do when they're testing, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what it is.
It used to be we would hear no planes here, and if a plane flew overhead,
Yeah.
everybody would come out and look, the plane. But
Yeah.
now with the war, they're very low level, high speed, and kind of gets your attention. Yeah.
Yeah, screaming.
Yeah. For me, that kind of hits a trigger, post-traumatic stress from being in the military. I don't know why some of the rockets and the explosions, you know,
Here
didn't
comes
really
the
bother
rain.
me, but that kind of bothers me. Sounds. Oh, in the morning I love to come out here. I don't know if you've listened to all the birds as we're talking, the tweeting.
Yeah, we got some right up here.
Finches, sparrows, magpies, crows, storks. Storks are very big in our area. I remember working in the garden one time, and I heard this whoosh, whoosh, and I looked up, and I was down because they were probably, the stork was flying over about 10 feet. It's the closest I've ever been to one here. But a lot of people cut off some of the tops of their trees, and they create a place where they can build their nest. Yeah.
You know, I have never seen a stork that was not full grown.
Yeah. All of them have been full grown here.
Yeah.
But they have nests, so we know that they have
Yeah.
babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roosters are very common, especially in the morning. Our roosters start sometimes at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
We have 3 roosters.
3 now, yeah.
And I was watching them the other day, and basically 2 of the younger roosters are taking care of the girls, and the older rooster is more interested in just crowing and, you know, making all kinds of sounds out there, and next thing you know, he sees a little bit of action happening, and he runs over and misses it all.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny.
I don't know, whenever, I made some posts about it, whenever I'm working around in the yard, I can feel eyes on me, and I look over and it's him. He stalks me everywhere I go. I was working on the carrots, thinning them out, sitting on my little garden stool, and I get this feeling, I look up, and he's over there, nestled down in the dirt, just watching me, in a place he never usually is. So sometimes he kind of makes some sounds at me, but I don't know what his deal is. Kind of makes me a little bit nervous. The talking
I
rooster.
think he likes you.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do that to me when I'm out there. I'm not out there that much, but
Well, I think when we first bought them, I was feeding them, so maybe he associates that. I don't know. You
if
know,
he ever came at me, I'd turn around and you know, fake peeking at him. I'd start lifting my leg at him, and that'd probably slow him down a little bit.
he's never been aggressive. You know, some people talk about, I remember my grandmother used to talk about watching out for the roosters. They would run and throw their talons into the back of her legs, and she'd be black and blue. But we've never had a rooster that was aggressive. And our geese aren't even aggressive. Our gander, is that the female? What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Gander's the female. The goose, he lays his neck out at me, but we shoo him. I mean, I'm kind of a little bit nervous about the geese, so I've been watching them. But They don't make any aggressive moves at
I
all.
think somebody out there can tell Laura which gender is the goose
I
or
always
the
forget.
gander.
I always forget. Yeah. So we've got roosters. We've got the ducks. Sometimes they come in front of the yard. Wah, 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 and the geese. You know, they can be really noisy. What are the
There's,
sounds?
well, I'm not thinking about sounds. I'm thinking about smells.
Oh, smells. That's
You
the
know,
next thing.
quite often there's garbage burning,
Get.
and many
Yeah.
times it's ours.
Go and get.
But also at certain time of year, sort of the fall, maybe early spring, it's like there is clouds, smoke everywhere. You can see the smoke hanging in the air because everyone's burning greens or
The old corn
old
stalks.
trees,
Yeah.
old
Leaves.
weeds and leaves, and it's like there is smoke everywhere. Usually it clears out pretty good. It doesn't hang for days like in Sacramento.
No.
But it does clear out pretty good. I love seeing at nighttime, seeing the fires burning on the horizon.
Horizon. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like one or two people start it, and then it's like everybody, they're waiting for it, and they all do it kind of at the same time.
Yeah,
So-
we went out and burned our cornfield a couple months back.
Yeah.
And we had it. I had it all piled up in a row, and there were many piles. And we got it all ready, and it was dried real good, and it was ready, and we lit them all up. And there was a lady that didn't like that too much.
But she came out after you guys had been burning for like 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, and she
No
started.
blatant get.
She started telling us, because it was getting a little dark, she started telling us that what we were doing wrong is that we burned it too late in the day, and now they're going to be the Russians are going to be able to see her house and bomb her house. It's like nobody wants to bomb her house.
Yeah. And I had talked with the mayor in our village about when would be the best time to burn and all that, and she suggested the time that we did. But we also had a refugee family that they were kind of bored to death, some young men, and they came and helped us.
I
and
was
their
very
daughter.
thankful.
Yeah. But, we were there for 30 or 40 minutes. I was talking to the wife of the family, and then this lady finally came out kind of squawking, but she squawked at us last year for something. Sometimes you just have complainers.
First time we were there working on that field, she wanted me to cut down a tree for her. And I wasn't ready for that at all.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do any tree cutting down because she wants it done for free. It's like, oh, well, could you, as long as you're cutting your tree down, could you come and cut my tree down too at no cost, at my cost? And that's very Ukrainian. So, it's like some days it's like, Mom, full up to here with that kind of stuff, and I will not do it. And I told her that day that I wouldn't do it, and, it probably made an enemy.
Yeah. Because of the collective culture here, especially from the Soviet Union, they have a lot like that. There's some very good aspects of it, but there's also some aspects that are kind of annoying to us in our culture.
But when we planted the potatoes this year, we planted in that field, and her husband, I'm pretty sure, is the guy that came over, and he told me that I was driving too fast on the field, and I had to put it in a lower gear, and it's like he was trying to help, but I was trying not to be offended by this guy who's not my friend.
You don't even know his name.
Don't even know his name. I'm not quite sure where he lives, and he's trying to tell me how to plant my potatoes. That is so offensive. But I wasn't being offensive. I told him this. It's like, for Americans, many times you come in to give advice and stuff. It's like, you're not my friend. I don't want your advice. But I listened to him, and he kind of smiled, and he seemed like he knew that, and he didn't put on too much. He did help us.
Well, the American culture is generally we don't give advice to somebody unless they ask for it, or
Because of guys like me.
we test it. we test, say something, and watch the person's reaction, and then we might back up. But we don't offer advice. But here, because of the collective culture, everybody offers advice. I mean, that's how we met our neighbors. We bought some pigs, and all of our neighbors came to tell us about how to raise pigs. And it's like, you understand we have pigs in America, but at first we were a little offended, kind of like, you think I'm stupid because I bought pigs and I don't know how to take care of them? But really what it is that they
We have the internet, which tells us what to do.
Really what it is they have nothing to offer except their advice. So they come and they offer their advice as a friendship token.
Yeah.
And so we had to learn that about the culture here. But because of that collective society, I mean, I've been on the trolley buses or tramways in the village, in the city, and I would sneeze, and all the grandmas, all the babushkas would tell me what I need to do because I'm sick. And I was like, but it's allergies. And the advice range from eating pig fat to, you name it. But offering advice is done very, very freely here. So that's kind of one thing. Their culture here is extremely different than our culture. And so sometimes if Mark and I are talking and we're stuck in our American English and somebody does something, we start to get a little bit frustrated, like, how could you do that? Because it's very offensive in our culture. But we have to remind ourselves we're in Ukraine. And we've been here 15 years, and it still sometimes triggers us, yeah. So
the thing about the potatoes, the guy was telling me I was going too fast. And that wasn't it at all. We've always had small seed potatoes, and I have always thought that bigger potatoes will seed just fine. Why can't we put bigger potatoes in it instead of these little tiny ones all the time? And I found out why. It's because the weight of the potato sitting on the seeder, the chain that goes around lifts one up at a time. Well, with all those potatoes sitting on it, it can't lift it up out of there with the bigger potatoes. Small potatoes, it pulls them right up out of there. So that was one lesson that I learned that he wasn't trying to tell me. And once I figured that out, I was able to go a little faster.
Molly.
Once we put the small potatoes in, I was able to really go faster. So
our dogs want to come out here and be in the middle of things, but they're not aware of the legs of the stand here holding the camera. Other smells, I'm getting a whiff of our septic tank. So people have outhouses here, septic tanks, so sometimes that smell is very strong. Depending on where the wind is coming from, we have a lot of compost. A lot of people have different animals, pigs, cows, so you get that barn smell. The dirt has a kind of a specific smell here. I love it right after it rains. The dirt is amazing here, just so rich. They say if you put a stick in the ground, it'll grow, and it's true. We did some stick fences, and I was like, where did this tree come from? And then I realized it's one of the sticks that we had cut down and somehow had gotten down in the dirt, and it was growing.
Even upside down.
Yeah, even upside down it grows. So what are the smells here?
Well, in the summertime with the heat, the Baba House septic tank gets pretty strong.
Our grandma house next door, yeah. From the
this one I don't really ever smell, but I know why it smells. It's because it's not vented really good. I should probably put a 2 or 3 up to the roof, 3 meters up to the roof, and let it vent there.
Well, you have whatever that is there that someone hit with the weed eater.
That's the vent.
The vent, that's what I'm smelling, yeah. Because our septic tank, Mark was really wise in how he built it in the front yard, and the fence is over it, so the hole accessing it is outside the fence, so Pasha pulls up his tractor, and then the rest is here, under the dirt here, between the house and the fence, let's see. What other smells? I think that's it. Neighbors. We have a joke, telephone, telegram, tele-Ukrainian. Ukrainian grapevine is extremely effective, and it's been very good for the war here. I've gotten some text messages from the Ukrainian government, actually from their Secret Service, saying that if you spot something, here's a phone number to call. Whenever there is a bombing or something, 100 videos show up online from everybody around. They share information really, really well. That can be a positive and a negative. We've been congratulated on the tractor that we were buying, and we weren't even buying a tractor. We were talking about buying a tractor. But on the other hand, we know who to tell specific information to if we want the whole village to learn something. You know, you have the village gossips.
Yeah, recently we had piglets delivered, and the guy that often buys them, he found out through the village grapevine, and probably the website, the Facebook page. Yeah, and anyway, he knew, and he came right over and started his plan for buying them, and
looked at them, and it was weeks before they were ready.
Yeah,
we didn't have to advertise them at all.
It was only a week after they were born.
Yeah,
and he's ready to buy them.
I think we've got a buyer already for our next two.
Same guy.
Yeah. And then we've got, of course, our next pig, Daisy, is due on June 4th. So that's one good thing, is that the news travels really fast.
I was talking about my motorblock earlier. I gave the motorblock away, and then the motorblock tractor with the 4 wheels, I decided we're not using it anymore, and I'll just put it outside with a sign on it that says for sale. And that lasted about 4 or 5 days, maybe a week.
Yeah, we had the sign out there for 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah, you had set it out there 1 or 2 days without the sign. I put the sign on it, and the very next day someone came and offered to buy it. Yeah. And it was funny to me, but basically he had to ask his wife for the money. I thought that was really funny, but it's like in this culture also. Yeah. Well, he's kind of an interesting guy. He painted it all up and tricked it all out and came back to let Mark see it.
He pimped it out.
He pimped it out, yeah. So we've seen him a couple of times, yeah. He's a very interesting fellow. Here, people just drop by. In America you would call and say, hey, can I come by? But here, people drop by, so...
They'll drop by even if they're not your friend. They will come in your gate and in your house looking for you.
Sometimes,
So we keep our front gate locked.
Yeah. And
we have a doorbell there. It forces them to ring the doorbell. But if they can find a gate that's open, they will come in.
Well, we've looked out our kitchen window and it's like, somebody's in our yard. Who is that?
There's a guy came in the front gate once, walked all the way around the back, came in the back door and into the house, and that's when Lexi got
him. Yeah.
Lexi bit him in the testicle.
Yeah, he was a drunk guy who had come, and he knew we had dogs. They went crazy. We locked them in our room.
Yeah.
And he wanted to sell us his bales of straw after they had harvested the wheat. And he said what the price was. It was normal. And so Sunday, after lunch, Mark and the guys all went out to the field to pick it up. Well, they were out there a while, and this guy shows up while they're gone. Now, he comes in the back door, and right beside the back door is our bedroom window. And I had the music on. I was sitting and reading, enjoying the quiet time. And so he came in through 3 closed doors. I mean, most of the time they open the door and they yell, and especially since they know we have dogs, people are a little bit more careful. But he came all the way into our bedroom, and you come into the office, and then over here is the bedroom. So he said something, and all 3 dogs went nuts, and I jumped up. I came around the corner, and he's kind of like this, and I got really aggressive with him, bumping chests, what are you doing in my house, and just kind of pushed him all the way back out. And I said, you could have knocked on my window. You heard the music, the window was open, but we're not sure what he did, but he came back later and said that Lexi had nipped him right in the testicles.
I'll say it for you.
Yeah, and he had to get stitches, and we were like shocked because I didn't see it. It must have been just very quick.
Actually, it was scrotum.
Scrotum, yeah. But the whole village heard about it. We didn't tell anybody. He told everybody. Yeah, so it was kind of an interesting situation. When the old grandma next door lived before we bought her house, I swear that she would wait for me to leave, and then she would come into the house and go into the bedroom and always catch Mark changing his clothes, and he'd be like, "Hi, Baba." Yeah, she was an interesting lady.
Well, this guy that Lexi bit, month ago, 2 months ago, I'm coming home and he's on the side of the road. I always pick up people that are coming into the village walking in. You know, give him the last mile or so, whatever, half mile, whatever it is, into the village. And I picked this guy up because I recognized his face. And he asked me, "Do you know who I am?" It's like, well, I told him, "I don't know your name, but I know my dog bit you." so 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, when I planted the potatoes and I was driving home, he's like, "Oh, hello," and he starts motioning like I'm the guy. You know, it's like, okay, I need to find out his name.
Well, there was probably a month or two after he got bit that Mark was in our courtyard and the front vehicle gate was open because I had left, and Lexi was barking like, "Hey, come here, come here, come here," and Mark went looking for her because she was half blind, and she had him out on the road, stopped, and
Out in the middle of the road.
he had his bags like, "Is your dog going to bite me?" And you said, do you remember what you said?
No.
"Are you in my house with my wife?" "No."
Yeah.
She's not going to bite you. And he said, "Come on, Lexi." And Lexi followed. But she wanted Mark to know, hey, this guy is here.
This guy's back.
So some neighbors, you know, people can be very, very helpful here. They will go out of their way to help you. Hospitality is in their DNA, you know. But then on the other side of their culture, you have the unwanted advice that you get a lot of times. You know, but we're pretty good. We've got a number of really good neighbors. There's a few that we have to be careful of because of our guys and them offering alcohol. 'Cause I remember we've had work done by people in the village and they wanted to be paid with vodka. And we said, no, we don't do that. So we have to be careful when our guys help different people that they aren't paid in vodka. And so there's a couple people we have to be careful of, but there's a majority of neighbors that are really good. We've got some good contacts here in the village, a good relationship with the mayor and her office.
The vodka they offer is like bathtub gin.
Yeah, and it makes hands swell up and faces swell up. Yeah. So last thing, utilities I had on the list. We got water into the village, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
We were using our well. Now we tend to use the village water unless sometimes they run out. Little boy, go on. You're going to knock the camera over.
Sometimes they have to do maintenance, or sometimes the people in the village haven't paid their bills, so they turn it off for a day. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes they want to get everyone's attention, so they turn the volume down really, really low, so it just barely trickles out. And usually when that happens, I try to open up. I have two systems: the village system and then our well system. And I just close the valve to the village system and open the valve to our well system, and our house has water.
Yeah.
But I'd rather get water from them because it's easier.
Yeah.
And it's reliable. Usually.
Our well is very slow moving, so Mark would have it work for 10 minutes like every hour, I think, filling it up, and we have a 5,000 liter tank buried with access to it underground. So I don't know, we kind of go back and forth. We have a filter system because the water just direct is not safe enough to drink from the village. From the well it is. It's very sweet water, I think. But
I have them both filtered.
Filtered, yeah. So gas, we have gas that comes into the house that we use for our hot water system, our heating system, and our stove.
It's really dirty gas here, which makes the bottom of the pan of the pots black.
Yeah. We have to pay for gas, and we have to pay for delivery of gas. So two different bills. Then we have electric. We have electric on this house, and we have electric on the other house that also includes the barn and the shop.
And your she shed.
And my she shed, yeah.
And the summer kitchen.
The summer kitchen is on their house?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought it was on this house. Oh. So it kind of balances out. This house we got rated as a business, I think. High capacity. We had to get our electrical plan approved by the local town electrical commission. And they had wanted a different grounds in the driveway, even though we had 2 other grounds and a few other things like that. But we were able to get electricity for this house at a higher rate. But when we first moved in here, the electric lady would have a fit every time. She would come and say, "You guys are using so much," because most people, their bill is like 200 grivna and ours is 2,000 grivna. And it took them a while to understand that we know it's going to be more. We're paying it on time.
Yeah.
All that. We don't have to go into the post office anymore to pay it. I can do it online with our Ukrainian card. Sounds like a big tractor coming through. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Water tank.
Water tank, yeah. 155 horsepower, yeah. So I saw the number on there.
So the electrical bill, typically everybody's bill is,
couple hundred grivna.
couple hundred grivna. And a lot of people, I think, want to pay it every 2 months or whatever.
The last minute.
So the lady that comes around checking the meter maid, she harasses everybody to get payment.
In our culture, we would consider it harassing.
Yeah, it's the way they have to do it here because they want to, get people motivated to pay.
Depress them. Yeah.
I understand that, but when they see our bill at 2,000, they're just freaking out because it's like, look, we pay our bill every month.
Yeah.
It's not a big amount for us because God knows what we're spending. He knows what our need is. He's providing money for it, and we're taking care of it. So what's the problem?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people in the village, they might have a very small, half fridge or something, and we've got a huge commercial fridge. We've got two big commercial freezers, those kind of things. So our electric bill is kind of high. Our gas bill is kind of high, but we pay them all. And let's see, we have our neighbor, Pasha, who fills up his tank 3 times and goes outside of the village to the dump and dumps our septic tank. I think that's all. We've got internet now. It came into the village 2-3 years ago, and we were one of the first people to sign up. And so we've got internet, and that's gone from like 200 grivna a month to 350 grivna a month. And of course we have our cell phones. We don't have a landline anymore. And the landline here didn't work completely. You could receive calls, but you could never make calls. That worked for us because we didn't want our clients making calls. But we've gone to cell phones, and we actually have a cell phone for clients. Once they've been here a number of months, and we can trust them, then we give them a cell phone only to use for the rehab business.
It's time for dinner.
So I think that's it. We've talked a number of minutes, but just to give you an idea a little bit about what life in the village is, later we'll probably do some more videos talking about different things, but just so you can experience Ukrainian life.
And we have many, many stories to tell.
Oh, yes, we do. We should be keeping track of them. So, thank you for watching.